Hello everyone, Shreyansh here. So today in this video we are going to talk about what is the difference between interface with default method and abstract class. Okay, so from JDK 1.8 we can also declare default method inside the interface. Okay, so now people are asking me what is the difference between the interface with default method and abstract class. Okay, so I thought to make a video. So let's start. So in case of interface, all the variables are public, static, and final by default, and we cannot declare instance variable. Whereas in case of abstract class, we can declare instance variable also. Okay, so this is one of the difference, guys. That in interface are all the variables are by default public, static, and final. We don't need to write explicitly public, static, and final in case of interface variables. But in case of abstract class, if we are declaring the variable explicitly as public, static, and final, then only those will be considered as public, static, and final. Okay, and in case of abstract class we can declare instance variable. In case of interface we cannot declare instance variable. So this is one of the difference. Second difference is we can't declare constructor inside the interface, whereas we can write constructor inside abstract class. Okay, in case of interface we can't declare static and instance blocks, whereas we can declare these blocks in abstract class. Okay, so we'll show all these examples. Okay, in Eclipse I'll show it. Inside interface we can't override object class methods, whereas we can override object class methods in abstract class. Okay, so these are the four differences, and there can be many other differences also. Okay, so these are the differences between the interface with default method and abstract class. So let's move to Eclipse and let's do the coding. So I have written one interface, public interface example, and let's try to create the variable. Let's say int a is equal to 10. Okay, then what I'll do is I'll create one method public, let's say void, and default method. Okay. Try to change the value, so we cannot change the value. It says abstract method do not specify a body. If we are writing default also here, then also we will not be able to change the value, because all the variables are by default public, static, and final. Okay, so I gave the default keyword here, and if I hover here, so you can see that the final field interface example dot a cannot be assigned. So it means that we cannot reassign the value to the final variable. So it is by default, this variable is by default public, static, and final. Okay, and in case of interface we can't declare instance variable. Okay, because all the variables are by default static and final. Okay, let me create one abstract class. So for abstract class we have to use abstract keyword. Abstract class, let's say abs class. Okay, let's create one instance variable. Let's say int x is equal to 10. So this is instance variable. Okay, let's create one method public void, let's say demo method, and let's try to change the value. Let's say x equal to 20. So it is allowed, guys. Okay, so we can change the value in case of instance variable. Okay, so this is at line number 17. This is instance variable, so that's why we are able to change the value to 20, from 10 to 20. Okay, okay, and in case of instance I mean interface, we cannot change the value of the variable because all the variables are by default public, static, and final, and in interface we cannot declare instance variable. Okay, guys, so the second difference is, let me comment it out as there is a compile time error. Now the second difference is, in case of interface we cannot uh, declare the constructor. So if I'm writing constructor, it should say that it's not allowed. So you can see interfaces cannot have constructors. Okay, so constructors are not allowed in interface. Okay, so if you are trying to create the constructor inside the interface, you will get compile time error. Okay, so for abstract class, happily we can declare a constructor. Okay, so this is allowed. There is no compile time error here. Okay, constructors are allowed inside abstract class. Okay, and always these constructors, the constructor of the abstract class will be called whenever we are creating the object of the child class of the abstract class. Okay guys, so always these constructors will be called whenever we are creating the object of the child class of the abstract class. And basically the purpose of using constructors in abstract class is we can initialize the variable, I mean we can initialize the instance variable of the abstract class inside its constructor. Okay, now the third difference is in case of interface, we cannot write static and non-static block, not allowed. So if I'm writing, a static as well as non-static block, so this is static block and this is non-static block. So you can see that there is a compile time error here. So it says the interface example cannot define an initializer. Okay, so it's not allowed in case of interface, whereas these blocks are allowed in case of abstract class. Okay, so it's allowed here. We are not getting the compile time error. We can also write some print statement here also. Let's say static block. Okay. Now guys, the fourth difference is in case of interface, we cannot override the object class method. So let's object class. Okay, and let's search for toString method. So this is the by default implementation of the toString method from object class. So I'll do copy paste here, and if I write default here, I am creating a default method because this method is having a body. So you can see, or if I change the implementation also, let's say my own implementation. Let's return something, let's say some s. Okay, so you can see that a default method cannot override a method from java.lang.object. Okay, so it is clear that we cannot override a method from object class in interface. Okay, we can override object class method in interface. Okay, and this is allowed actually in abstract class. So this is abstract class. If I am trying to override object class method, so it's allowed in case of abstract class. Okay, so we have to remove the default keyword. So you can see that there is no compile time error in case of abstract class. Okay, so code is compiling in case of abstract class, but there are errors in case of interfaces. So these were the four differences between the interface with default method and abstract class. Okay guys, so thank you for watching this video, and please subscribe the channel to get further updates on Java 8, core Java and Selenium also. Okay guys, thank you so much.